228 appearances, 25 goals, and 22 assists over a 7-year span for Curtis Jones. 180 appearances, 50 goals, and 23 assists for Cody Gakpo in the previous few years. These are two players that very much are the topic of conversation when it comes to outgoings for Liverpool this season. The question is it right to have them both leave? Is it wrong? Should both remain in the squad? And if so, what would have to happen to make sure both are here next year? I'm going to start off with Curtis Jones. Now, Curtis Jones is probably the one I think fans are most passionate about staying. And I think it's an interesting conversation because I remember not long ago there was a very clear conversation. Fans seemed to feel that Curtis Jones, it was the right time for him to move on. However, last year, Curtis Jones was one of the few brighter sparks, I think, in a side that was underwhelming for multiple different reasons that have been discussed by every fan numerous times. Now, my feeling with Curtis Jones is he's a player with a wealth of technical ability. He possesses skills in midfield that I think maybe our other midfielders lack. Specifically, his ball retention and his composure is phenomenal. It's similar to Gravenberg, but there seems to be just a bit more to it, is the best way of saying it. Maybe that's not the tactical wording for it, but there just seems to be a bit more to it. And plus, listen, he's a player who understands Liverpool better than a scouser who's been with the club since he was 9. Now, the issue I have with Curtis Jones, to be honest, is an issue that I think many fans have had with Curtis Jones for a while, and it's consistency. It's output. I mentioned at the very start of the video, this is a man who's over 220 appearances for the club, but has yet to hit 30 goals or 30 assists from a midfield role. He started off playing quite advanced in midfield for Liverpool, but the output's never really matched what I think even he would have expected. Now, there have been plenty of reasons as to why. You'd say an argument is a lack of consistency and as a name on the starting team sheet. Another argument would be, injuries have had him in and out the side. His lack of game time has come down to managerial decision, not just under Arne Slot, but Jurgen Klopp as well, where he never seemed to be the first name in that midfield or the second or the third. Now, Liverpool have always had quality in that midfield, maybe inconsistent quality, maybe quality that was past its prime, but quality all the same. And Curtis Jones has struggled to make an impact to remain in that starting 11. So what separates previous seasons to the forthcoming season? Well, Curtis Jones is in the last year of his contract. He's 25 years of age. Inter Milan have shown very clear interest in him. Potentially 35 million is what Liverpool are looking for. Inter Milan seem to have no interest in going over 22 million. For me, Curtis Jones is a player you keep and you look to extend the contract of, because even if he doesn't whet your appetite for what you want from a midfielder, even if he doesn't necessarily hit the heights that maybe we want him to hit, he is a quality scout midfielder who understands the club inside and out. And I think letting him go for such a small fee, when you look at the likes of Adam Wharton, Alex Scott, Fernandez, all being touted for ridiculous prices, 80 million, 85 and 100 million, Curtis Jones has the kind of quality where that kind of price tag should be attached to his name in today's market. Now, whether you think the price tag is unreasonable or not, that's not my point. My point is that the price tags labeled to midfielders in today's market, it feels wrong to see Curtis Jones labeled at 30 million. Now, part of it, of course, is last year of his contract. I absolutely hear that. But then I'd raise you and say Van Heck was in the last year of his contract at Brighton and he's left for over 50 million. These are the kind of deals that we're looking at now. And I think Curtis Jones, I'd be shocked if Curtis Jones wants to leave Liverpool just because he wants to leave Liverpool. I believe that there was most likely a poor relationship with Arne Slot. Reasons that obviously we're unaware of, but I think there was probably a poor relationship with Arne Slot. And I think because of that, he was likely looking elsewhere. He wanted first-team football. He wants first-team football. He's a very confident player. There's no doubt about that. He's a very confident player. I think first-team football is what he believes he deserves. My argument would be, does Iriola's system tend or lend itself, rather, to a Curtis Jones style of player? Well, if I look at their midfielders that he's played with at Bournemouth in his system, I'd say no. But Iriola knows that he's going to need to develop his own system to be the dominant side in games. I think when you're the dominant side in games in the Premier League, you need a player like Curtis Jones. I don't think Curtis Jones's quality is really respected enough. There's very few players in the Premier League have the technical ability and composure in such tight spaces in the Premier League, which is one of the tightest leagues in the world. You barely get a half second to think. And he's phenomenal at retaining possession. Now, I think he needs to add more to his game. And if he is to stay at Liverpool next season, his output must improve. I think this season he got 3 goals and 3 assists. That is abysmal for a midfielder. He himself would agree that is an abysmal output that he himself knows he should be doing better at. But I personally believe Curtis Jones should stay at Liverpool next season. I think he can bring more to the role. I think he can do more in the role, especially, as I say, in terms of output. And I still think he has something to give the club. I do also think on the market, if you're looking to replace a midfielder like Curtis Jones, if you're selling him for 35, you're probably spending 50 to 55 just to replace the character, just to replace the quality. It doesn't make any sense to sell Curtis Jones for me in today's market unless the player is forcing himself to leave. I know people aren't a fan of this, but I'd rather keep him and lose him on a free at the end of next season than just lose him for 20, 30 million this year. I think he's a player that I'd like to keep. Let me know whether you agree. Now, moving on, I'm going to talk about Cody Gakpo. Now, Cody Gakpo feels much more divisive than Curtis Jones. Cody Gakpo has been a player that I remember joining in the January. He declined the move to Manchester United, joined Liverpool, played a number of roles. He was playing midfield at times, false nine, out on the left. He joined during a turbulent time at Liverpool. And for the most part, I feel like he delivered in terms of output. There was no doubt about it. There was always a question mark over whether he had the pace for the Premier League. And then this predictability to his game seems to have really encroached itself, if that's the right word, over the last couple of years. Most notably, I'd say, in the previous season. Now, last season, he got 9 goals and 6 assists for Liverpool in 53 appearances, a return that I'm sure he's not particularly proud of, but in a very poor Liverpool side. I suppose it could have been worse. I think Cody Gakpo is somebody who is overhated. I think one of the reasons he's overhated is I feel people either, I don't want to say misunderstand his role, but I think there's a misunderstanding of how to use Gakpo. I personally wouldn't want to necessarily see Gakpo leave unless it was for 65 plus million. I do believe he has more quality than people maybe give him credit for. He's 27 years of age. He's a Dutch international. He's played at the highest level. He's been a part of the Liverpool club where we have, won major honours, and he's been a big part of that. When Liverpool won the Premier League under Arne Slot, he was a big part of that. Whether people like the guy or not, I do think he is almost, I feel like he's misprofiled in many ways. I feel like he's a fantastic squad player. I don't think he should be the first name on the team sheet. I don't think he should be the forward that Liverpool play through on every attack. But I do think he's somewhat good in the box. I think he's a reliable squad player. I think he works hard. I think you're not going to necessarily be able to replace his quality in today's market for under the price you'd end up selling him for. I don't see much point in selling Cody Gakpo, if I'm honest, going into this next season. Entertain offers if the right one comes along. Tottenham, of course, is supposedly interested. If Tottenham put 65 million, 70 million on the table, I'd understand both sides parting ways. I would. However, below that, I'm not in a rush to sell him. Liverpool's forward line going into next season is changing already. Liverpool have lost many leaders. Now, people may not like this. However, it seems to be truthful. People look at Cody Gakpo as somewhat of a leader within the dressing room. He's a well-liked member of the team. I know fans may be very critical of him, but I think sometimes we don't know just how well he's liked how well a player is liked. And I don't think this is a particularly popular opinion that I'm sharing right now. So and I understand that, and it's fine to have your own opinion, and I'm not trying to tell you you're wrong. I personally would be hesitant to sell Cody Gakpo this window. I really would, unless you can find someone on the market of similar quality for much cheaper. Now, of course, people are going to say his quality is easy to replace, but mind you, he's consistently available, can play down the middle and on the left, and we haven't seen him in the Areola system. He certainly, I think, would benefit from more expansive, faster way of playing. Stumbling over my words here. And I think also, when you look at today's forward market, Diomande is going to be over 100 million, Barcola 60, 70 million. There are very few wingers on the market that I think you can bring in for a reasonable price to replace a squad player in Cody Gakpo. I think that's what Cody Gakpo should be next year. I think he should be a valuable squad player. He shouldn't be the first name on the team sheet. Shouldn't be, in my opinion, in your best starting 11. But I do think he's someone who can come off the bench and wrap a game up. I do think he's someone who can come off the bench and make an impact. I do think he's someone you could bring in a midweek game or a game on the weekend against a club where maybe they're going to be a little bit, not harder to break down, but if they're sitting deeper, you've got the physical presence of Cody Gakpo. I think he can make an impact in that kind of way. Also, with the injury crisis that Liverpool always seem to have around the front line, Cody Gakpo, a ready, available Premier League experienced forward who does have an eye for the back of the net sometimes, I think is a player you should be comfortable gambling on being in your squad. Now, these are all just my opinions on Curtis Jones and Cody Gakpo. I feel like both in their own ways are underrated, both in their own ways are underappreciated. I do want to also add both in their own ways are incredibly frustrating. Critique of Curtis Jones' sideways passes, too slow on the ball. Cody Gakpo, he's so predictable, cutting in on the right. We know what's going to happen. So, in essence, yeah, I know the frustration that comes with these two players, but I'd look around the market and I just think Curtis Jones, you can't replace it on the market at the moment. Cody Gakpo, you can't replace that on the market at the moment. And I think with the amount of changes Liverpool have gone through in the last 12 to 18 months, this metamorphosis Liverpool are going through into this new chapter under Iraola, I don't think it's worth the gamble of letting both go unless the players themselves forced to move. Now, I could be completely wrong, and I'm more open than ever to being proven completely wrong. Do you believe Liverpool should cash in on Curtis Jones? Do you believe Liverpool should cash in on Cody Gakpo? If so, state your reason why. Provide the reason you believe that reason. And let me know. Listen, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll hold my hands up and be like, hey, fair enough.